Emergency door. Deploy an ethereal door on the ground to be able to pass through walls? No. Escape into some kind of momentarily safe area? No. Cartoon shenanigans where an enemy runs into it trying to follow you? No. It's a door. Works exactly like every other door does. It's just a funny item, okay? I could also say that it's an entirely new way to look at the game with damage sources that I otherwise ignore, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, killing everything by throwing a door on the ground is funny. Certainly it would be more effective as a weapon if I just picked it up and started hitting enemies with it, but that's not how it works. How does it work, you might ask? And that is a good question. It is considered a deployable skill and has the general assortment of affixes that every turret, for example, has. However, because it has no actual attacks associated with it, these are all limited to on deploy, on destroy, and on enemy kill. That last one implies that they expected at least some kills attributed to the door. Specific affixes I'm looking for are Poison Cloud on deploy and Fire and Oil on ground on destroy, which I've been using to decent effect so far. I mean, it's not bad. Normally I would be using those for the elemental synergies, but here it's my main source of damage. It's my only source of damage. There are a couple other offensive affixes like explodes into arrows and drops a bomb on destruction, but damage over time is much more powerful than a quick, minimal burst. And these affixes do indeed scale with my stats, something I did not know before starting this. This also applies to damage increasing mutations, which I did not explore nearly as much as I should have in this run. Endgame, around 20, 25 stats or so, is still going to be around the same level as a starting weapon in terms of DPS, but look, it's damage. By the way, check out that baseball bat. Would have had some great synergy with the door. Yep, sure would. Why the Arboretum? I don't know, changing it up. So this is a plan that, of course, has absolutely nothing to do with the door itself. The door has no attacks. You cannot deal damage with the door. Somehow they did not program in slamming the door on enemies, which is a real oversight in my opinion. Closest thing is throwing the door down close to an edge, which will kind of push an enemy off of it, but even that is more gravity than the door itself. But the emergency door is not entirely a joke weapon. It's not without merit overall. It does have good crowd control potential by blocking off an area with a physical object, and that whole physical object thing is something that nothing else in the game can boast. Mostly because on high cell difficulty, enemies will just teleport to you if they don't just outright destroy the door immediately. Door can also be destroyed to stun enemies behind it. And in what way is that better than using a stun grenade or any other stunning weapon? Look, I appreciate it because it's a funny item, not because it's an extremely useful item. And that's why it's a better choice for this than, say, Taunt or Tonic, which would effectively be the same run. Real nerve-wracking cursed chest this time. I don't even know why I came into this area. Thankfully on zero cell mode, I don't need to worry about enemies teleporting to me, so I'm safe as long as I'm taking it slow. Real slow. Strange quirk on display here with a Poison Cloud too. Always appears on the side away from the direction you throw it. Probably has something to do with the door being considered a solid object. Any other weapon or deployable may have a hit or hurt box, but no true physical presence. Would be useful if that poison also hurt me, but since it doesn't, it just kind of makes it harder to hit enemies with the poison. So, why is that malaise still ticking up? Why is there even malaise at all on zero cell difficulty? Well, at some point in time, I turned on the universal malaise option in the custom menu, and I keep forgetting to turn it off. I like to think that it's in the grand tradition of making the game harder than it needs to be. Dead Cells used to have malaise based on enemies hitting you, and the penalty to getting it full was instant death. Still, this is not a fast run, so having enemies constantly spawning, and in turn, turning into elites, isn't helping. I did turn it off after this. Don't want to deal with that during the no stats up run. As far as the ossuary goes, shockers are immune to poison, but not fire. Gotta get real close to them to make that door work, which is exactly what makes it tricky. Still, as long as I get the stun off, they're pretty easy to deal with. Hey, good dodge right there. Rare to have ducking be an effective strategy. The Concierge. So, on one hand, bosses destroy the door in a single hit. That means that defensively, I'm not really going to be getting too much out of this. Not to mention the fact that bosses really don't get stunned much at all. So even if I was trying to roll into the door before it gets destroyed, which is unlikely, still nothing much going to be happening. On the other hand, bosses destroy the door in one hit, so I can guarantee that it's going to be the Concierge is going to be right in the middle of the fire when that door is destroyed. All I got to do is just set it up right in front of him, and Concierge does target the door specifically. It's sort of a little bit like a very bad version of the dummy, for example, where instead of exploding into bombs and whatnot, that it just explodes into some fire. A little bit of fire. Just a small amount. Just enough to make it so that I'm clearly going to beat the boss, just not in a timely manner. Look, I knew that I could do some damage with the door. That's why I did this run, right? I also knew that I was going to be taking some damage here, too. Jeez. Yeah, 11%. That's a lot of damage to me. What do you want? Yeah, I guess reception last time to this sort of video was pretty positive, as you can see. So I suppose I'll do a few more of this. Probably not on this level of wackiness. Probably something a little bit more normal, but I don't know. I'll figure out what I want to do here. There's a lot of different runs that I've seen people suggest that I've been like, no, that sounds too hard or too finicky. But, well, can I really say anything about that at this point in time? To doing this run? The answer is absolutely not. I guess that momentary stopping to punch the door, it's like, could be something. No, not really. It's decent for setting up maybe some synergies, but I think pretty much any other deployable turret is going to be better in this case. Also would definitely be doing that on a higher cell difficulty too, so there's that. Come on, almost there, almost there. 9 in my main stat, and clearly the mutations that I chose are not the most optimal. Although, no mercy's not too bad. It effectively means that the door, even before it starts, takes off 15, or 7.5 in this case, for bosses, percent of the health. So that's something. I think like any other sort of damage over time, though, benefits from having no mercy out here. Still, though, having the extra cooldown, for example, from the Hunter's Instinct is... yes, I can use that to throw the door more often. Doesn't matter. And especially in a boss fight, of course. In most boss fights. Even boss fights that do have ads in it do not have enough to really make that worthwhile. It's not a very hefty cooldown now, is it? All right, now come on. Here's where No Mercy is going to come right into play. Yeah. Almost there. Okay, there you go. Yeah, stopping the boss from jumping is something again, but is it really that useful? As prophesized in the last video, I went to the Fractured Shrines this time. And no, I didn't take the Cursed Chest in this biome. That goes without saying. And not just because I keep jumping into pits. The real reason I'm here is the legendary item. And there we are. A couple available just for me. The affix isn't too important. Can't be destroyed by non-boss enemies is interesting, sure. But now I have 2 doors to play around with. It's like the War of the Roses over here. Actually, I think they came after that. I don't know. Comment down below about how wrong I am about English history. By the by, breaking 2 doors in an enemy's face pushes them farther back, and that's it. The real goal with this build, I guess you could call it a build, is to make sure that I have damage over time up as much as possible. Anything else comes secondary. And that damage over time does work about as well as breaking a door and setting the wooden splinters on fire. So making sure I can do that at all points in time is an upgrade. Yeah, Next up, Clock Tower has a lot of nice confined areas. Oh no, what have I done? For reasons unbeknownst even to myself, I'm in the Undying Shores, a level where enemies are constantly getting revived. And the only thing I have to fight that are 2 doors. And the damage is clearly falling off at this point in time. So, let's not spend too long in this area because I gave up fighting here real quick. I've done pacifist runs, at least in non-boss biomes. I know the deal with it. I just wanted to do something different, I guess. You know, as if door only wasn't different enough. I did get the weird shovel homunculus to bug out. That's fun. Sit back, relax, and strap on your seatbelt, because if you thought that concierge fight was long, whoa boy, I am woefully unprepared for this fight. Also, really bad dodging those mushrooms. I feel like that's going to be a going thing over the course of this battle. And, you know, the War of the Roses reference, I feel like now makes a lot more sense, right? Right? Hey, you know what? I got some time. When was the War of the Roses? Why not? War of the Roses and the Tudor family. The rain. Come on, man. Well, anyway, at this point in time, you see the problem that I really ran into, a 13 in the main stat, which is not a lot. I'm going into the last 2 areas after this, and I am 1455 to 1485. Oh, Tudor, right after the War of the Roses. There you go. So my reference is sort of okay, but not quite there, right? You know, I feel like I got 90% there. As far as, like, references go, I think that was a fairly solid one. Look, you're either going to get that or you're going to get reference to urgent. Urgent, emergency door. I couldn't figure out a way to work that into the script, so you're getting it during the post-commentary versions of the boss fights, which, I don't know, is this the best way to do it? Let me know your thoughts in the search bar above. But yeah, it is, I mean, the same thing. I would say that a lot of melee hits, so compared to, say, doing the assassin, it's not the name, the timekeeper, the Scarecrow is going to be in the middle of my burning doors more often than not. And same with the poison and everything like that. Running directly to me to attack does kind of guarantee that. And certainly, unlike last time where the giant was really the right choice, that would have been the worst one here. I don't even know if I could get the door up in a point. Maybe through the poison would be the only way that I could even do damage to the giant's eye. And that was not... Well, I wasn't even close to the area. You got to remember that fighting the giant after, say, the Sepulchre and whatnot is something that's only possible on a higher cell difficulty. So I would have need to go through the cavern if I wanted to even make that work. And why? Okay, just roll through the sickles. That's how you do it. I know how to... I'd like to mention to everybody that I know how to do the fights here, and here's the point in time that I just realized maybe I should get rid of these mushrooms before they become an issue. Damage over time takes care of the mushroom boys fast enough, but just roll through it. Just roll through it. It's a 0 cell mode, and I know that I am currently at tickling damage, but surely I can do a little bit better dodging. Yeah, there was the idea that I had, and the reason why I'm currently at 13 main stat is because I was thinking, is this actually raising the amount of damage? And rather than look at the screen and how much, what is I even thinking? It takes 5 seconds to check if the stuff scales, and for some reason I decided not to look at that. Why? I don't know. Because I don't want to look at numbers. I'm allergic to math here. I'm allergic to math, but big fan of Foreigner. I mean, I assume that everybody understood when I was talking about the song Urgent that I was talking about a Foreigner song, right? Surely at this point in time, there has been a renaissance for Foreigner. You know, they're getting on, just roll through it. Roll through it. What are you doing? Why bounce on everything at that point in time? It's the water does not destroy those mushrooms. You know this. Ugh. Like TikTok, I'm sure. The sax solo in Urgent alone. There you go. The sax solo in Urgent alone, I feel like that is well deserving of a TikTok mainstay, right? Surely. I'm not going to actually look this up. I will look up all of the English history that I want to, but I refuse to go and look at TikTok while allegedly recording a video. Sort of. However you did producing a video, I guess. Whatever. Can't believe that I have already used 3 potion charges, and I'm on my way to the 4th one, which I believe, no, not quite there. I thought that was the time. I'm so used to 5-cell mode, mushroom boys just doing tons of damage. They got like 90% of your health bar in one hit. The start of this run was going well enough that I did really consider maybe pumping it up to 1-cell difficulty, but I'm glad I didn't, clearly. Clearly I would have struggled a bit. No easy way to get extra potion charges unless they wanted to give me, you know, a bank at this point in time, and bank has already been. I've already seen the bank. Bank was what, I think, going to the ossuary. Pretty sure. One of these runs, I will have to go into the bank. I don't know which one. I mean, I'm obviously taking a more traditional route, minus the scarecrow right now for most of these runs, but I wanted to hit up the DLC if I got a particularly good weapon going on. You know, if I'm taking out, maybe do Cyclops. Ooh, that's the big video on the channel, right? Could be fun. There you go. This guy was getting hit so much there. Thank God for no mercy coming through. Oh, hi, I didn't go into the distillery after that fight. I wasn't feeling hateful enough to myself that day. Castle ended up being a less combat-focused biome again. Of course. The No Mercy mutation feels like it's doing more work than the door itself, after all. Still decided to get all 3 of the mini-boss keys, which led to this fight against the double trackers. Knee-deep in blood, obviously, means that doors are even less effective than normal. You can see the damage number popping off of them. It's just pathetically low. There are also enemies that have innate teleportation, so no blocking off one with a legendary door and dealing with them one at a time. Yeah, that 1 extra stat I'm sure made a really big difference. No points for guessing how this one goes. But regardless, I gave it my best. So throwing the door on the ground, especially in an area like this, a very tiny arena, means that you're pretty much always going to be on fire. That's why I am sort of staggering my door usage out here to make absolutely sure that I'm getting as much out of them as possible. Still, as much as possible is not a lot. Especially with my 13 in my main stat, because I was still convinced that I was not actually getting any benefit from building my main stat. Yeah. It's so easy to test. Well, at least my many hundreds of hours of experience with this guy makes it so that I'm able to dodge well enough. It's not amazing, but it's enough, right? Although speaking of hundreds of hours, you can get a very good idea just waiting out on this phase, which of course doesn't appear on the higher cell difficulty because it just skips to the 2nd and 3rd phase immediately. Get a good idea of exactly what the pattern is. Something that I did not know. So, I mean, hey, you learn something new every day, right? It's not going to be relevant or anything, but it is new, right? Okay, come on. Just door after door. Could make more references here, of course, to Foreigner. Or, I mean, maybe we could go Jim Morrison? I haven't done any of that yet. I mean, I haven't, but is that really important? I didn't even change out the mutation that gives me the cooldown reduction and everything. Oh, and look at the Hand of the King. There we are. We actually got the ads in the middle of the fight here, too, along with everything else. I feel like it's been a while since that's happened. Usually, even with pretty bad runs, I'm able to make it work. And here's where the real issue comes in. I don't have a way to deal with the standards. Of course, also I don't really have a way to deal with two enemies at the same time here, but fire, not really going to do too much. And the damage is too low to even take them out with a grenade or a burst or something like that. So, it's not great. I can try and get to the edge or something like that, but no, not really enough. My best bet would be here, taking damage from the hand from like a more minimal hit and then trying to, I don't know, use Mercy invincibility to get through the explosion. That's ridiculous, but it's how desperate I was. All right, that's the last one. We are not maybe like a fifth of the way through the bar. Yeah, no, this one wasn't happening. This one wasn't happening because I did a bad job. I didn't do any sort of testing with this weapon to make sure that I knew how it was going to work and how I wanted it to do stuff. Oh, whatever. Look, we all knew that this is how it was going to go, especially with the emergency door as a weapon. Wow, not even dodging that. It's like I just kind of gave up at this point in time. And so, that is exactly how it went. However, I did not give up on this one. Actually paid attention to what I was doing with the build, came up with some good ideas, and now suddenly, hey, check out how much more damage I'm doing right now. I mean, first off, 20 in the main stat. Second off, I got Tranquility and Soldier's Endurance, which is just, well, extra health. And then, of course, same thing as before, just using the No Mercy because it's that good. And hey, Door's actually a pretty good counter to the Timekeeper, as it turns out. Because she'll still go through the full Gulf Swing and everything on hitting the door. And that kind of freezes her in place for a little bit, while you could do extra damage if I allowed myself to use other weapons. Also, of course, throwing a door in front has to use one of the very big wind-up swings here, just purely to hit the door there. So that's that much more time that you can use to run away and everything. Also, can't pull you through the door. Again, the physical object. One of the few things that can actually do that. So there's tech here. There is actual tech to using the door in a boss fight. How about that? Rematch with the Hand of the King. And I'm sure you can probably tell, because I have 23 in my main stat, goes a lot better. And this is also a good time to actually explain. So, Tranquility. The way Tranquility works is that when you are not near enemies, you get a boost of damage. And it does work with this. So what I am doing is I am trying to stay as far away from the Hand of the King, at least until I need to put down the door, as possible. And you can tell exactly when I have that active and when not, because I'll have the sword over the head. You really don't need to be too far away from enemies to be able to make sure that's actually working. You might think that something like the deployable extra damage when next to a deployable skill would have been good, but I destroy my deployable skill. It does work. So it would work for poison, for example, as long as I didn't destroy the door, and it doesn't last too much longer after you destroy that door, so it is not as effective as you want it to be, simply put. All right, and now here we got the standards, and just takes it right out. Perfect. Actually did have an entire plan for that this time in case it didn't immediately take the standards out, which is that one of the doors that I have actually has the, and you can see it right there, has the generates a shield when you use it. So if I am still kind of in the middle of a fight, pretty desperate to try and get rid of one of the standards or at least block it, I can just throw down one of the doors to get that shield there working. And it was very much something that I planned on taking to make sure that it worked. Door also does work on those bombs, by the way. That is maybe the other thing. That's maybe the one technique that you're going to get in this fight that's any good, which is trying to block some of the bombs with the door so that they don't go all the way across the arena. Makes it easier to dodge, but you know, that's why you also have the little ice platforms there too. It's not that big of a deal, really. Poison is not really that effective. It's really all about the fire and the oil fire. It does way more otherwise. Also have Super Mario mode again, which I'm not gonna do a run based on that. I can tell you that right now. I hesitated there for a second because I was wondering. It's like, oh, do I have the shield one up? And it's like, nope, was on cooldown. There you go. See, that's something. It's not amazing, but something. Yeah, no, still like... And there, I did actually use that. Yeah, poison does pretty pathetic damage compared to the fire. And you can see that pretty clearly from the damage numbers popping off of the hand there. Still, though, it is enough, at least on Zero Cell mode, to do okay damage. Okay damage, right? So hey, there you go. You can beat the... It's an affix... Let's be honest. Yes, it is emergency door, but it's really affix only run, right? Barring a couple little things that I was able to do with the timekeeper.